Hi, hello, welcome to my latest sketchbook tour. This is a challenge I set myself for this year where I try to draw every single day, and this is a flip through of how far I've gotten in the year so far. I've seen a couple other artists do this, and I've seen them using hobonichis, which I looked into, but I found it a little bit too expensive for me, so I decided to use a moleskin agenda. This isn't particularly made for making art. The pages are really thin, but for me this just sort of made sense. And I'm also fine with working in a sketchbook that doesn't always react perfectly to every single material, because that also takes some of the pressure off of me. Because this was technically made to be an agenda, there's a lot of pages that I wasn't really sure what to do with before I get to like the daily spread layout, which is where I'm going to be making the art. But for this monthly overview, I thought it would be cute to make little snippets of what I actually made on the day, and then it becomes sort of art piece in itself. And I think this turned out really cute, and I'm excited to continue doing this, but I might want to find a way to do it a bit faster, because after already making the full page on the day, I get a little bit lazy to try and come back and fill these in as well. So sometimes I'm a little bit behind on these. And this is my first spread that I created. I actually created it on January 2nd, so I did 2 in one day. And it was inspired by a picture that I took out the window of the water on the canal in Amsterdam. My initial ideas were that I wanted to attempt to draw every single day, but some days get really busy and I would not beat myself up about it if I had to catch up on a day and miss a day here or there. And my idea was that I wanted to do sort of abstract and non-figurative art pieces, so that there was no like wrong art, quote unquote. Like I couldn't mess up proportions or make something look wrong if I was only doing sort of abstract pieces that were more focused on color and shapes. Those ideas did change and evolve a lot already over the last 3 months. I think I still ended up doing a lot of figurative things, but in the end I'm sort of just doing whatever I feel on that day and allowing myself to just make art. A lot of the spreads I am not particularly fond of, or I don't think turned out the best ever, but the idea of drawing every single day sort of made me feel better, because if I didn't like the drawing of the day, I would just tell myself, okay, well, I'll try it again tomorrow. Also, a lot of times I learned what went wrong where and what I didn't like about it, and then I could adjust in the day after. I think in the month of January, I still had quite a good balance between art that I did actually like and art that I was like, oh, that's a little bit of a miss, but never mind. But as the months went on, for example, in February and in March, I was making a lot more art that were misses, in my opinion, and less like good spreads, quote unquote. So I got a little bit demotivated and a little bit worried about the art that I was making, and that also made me not want to pick it up and do it every single day. I think the pressure for this sort of was created when I decided I wanted to do a monthly overview of my favorite spreads that I created of the month on Instagram. And for January, it was easy to find my favorites, and then for February, I struggled a little bit more, and then for March, I don't even know if any of them I feel like are quote unquote good enough to be posted on my Instagram. So this idea that was supposed to be something fun and just posting more of my art on my Instagram sort of created a lot of pressure for the sketchbook, and also made me want to pick it up less. So I'll probably still be sharing some spreads on my Instagram, but I think I'm scrapping this monthly overview thing because it means that I have to have made at least 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 good spreads in that month. And that was really putting unnecessary pressure on myself. Every time I made a spread and it wasn't good enough, I was like, oh, I only have so many left. I have to make sure I make a good spread for this month. So that wasn't fun. That wasn't the idea of this sketchbook in any way. The idea was to make bad art. So I'm succeeding in my original goal, but my goals got a little bit confused along the way. What I did really like about this sketchbook so far is that I have a lot of ideas that come up that I'm like, oh, could that work? I don't know if that's going to work. And for some reason, my main sketchbook that I use, I really want each spread to be nice, so I don't really take risks and I don't really try new things because I'm worried that they'll go wrong. And then if I ruin one spread, then I just feel bad about it, I guess. So the good thing about this sketchbook was I was never really worried to try new things or to just give something a shot. Also reminds me that that's also what my other sketchbook is for. I don't need a specific sketchbook where I can mess up like you can mess up in any sketchbook. But yeah, I needed to remind myself of that. And I think it's also encouraging me to be a bit more brave and take more risks in my other sketchbooks. I think one downside I've noticed so far about this daily sketching habit is that I often use up a lot of my either time or creative juices on this sketchbook, and my other sketchbooks haven't been having as much art made in them, which I think is a little bit of a shame. It's a bit of a balance because sometimes I draw something in this daily sketchbook that I'm like, oh, I want to develop this idea further, or this has inspired me to create something else. So there's definitely like upsides and downsides to it, I would say. I'm either way going to finish off the rest of the year, but I'm not sure if this is something that I will continue on to doing next year or for the next few years, because I would rather take the energy of this sketchbook and put it into my main sketchbook, for example. And instead of trying to create this sketchbook where I'm allowed to make bad art, I should be allowed to do that in my main sketchbook. And maybe the idea of a daily sketching habit could just be something that I'd also do in a main sketchbook. I did purposely choose a smaller size sketchbook for this one because my main sketchbook is A5 and I also have an A4 sketchbook that I use sometimes at the same time. And then this sketchbook is an A6 size. So I was hoping that because it's smaller, I would be able to make the pieces faster and not take too much time in my day because it's a daily thing. Sometimes I can draw a page in 15 seconds, but sometimes I am working on it for a good 20 minutes or 30 minutes. So the idea that smaller meant faster didn't really work out super well. If anything, I'm already happy that I've done it so far because it's really making me reflect on my creative practice and how I use my sketchbooks and how I create art, and that I have been a bit more on the safe side when creating art and I don't use my sketchbooks to the full potential that I could. So I've already learned a lot, and I think I've already grown a lot with just doing this daily drawing and seeing how a sketchbook can be used without focusing only on the aesthetics or how it looks in the end, but rather the process of making art. If this isn't something that you've tried out before and you were thinking about it, I would say go for it because I've already learned a lot about my art and I feel like it could probably help you as well. It was quite challenging to think of something new to draw every single day. A lot of the times I got inspired by the drawing from the day before, but on the days that I really didn't have any inspiration or didn't feel like anything, I just did these little color studies and shapes and patterns and played around with those. It felt good to get something down without having to think really hard about what I wanted to draw. Forcing yourself to do art when you have nothing coming up about what you wanted to draw is really difficult. So these little cute pattern making and color swatches were really helpful on those days. And another easy one was just something about my day, so something that I saw when I went on a walk, or how I was feeling, or a nice color that I was using on a different art piece that I decided to use on this page as well. Basically just anything that I was already experiencing that I just put it onto the page. So this is how far I've gotten in the sketchbook so far from January until March. If you want to see more from the sketchbook, I will be posting more further in the year, so you can subscribe. And I also have a bunch of other sketchbook tours and videos, so you can also check those out if you would like to see more of my work. And thank you for making it to the end. I hope you have a great day.